Chaos or community? Where do we go from here? Chaos is a state of utter confusion or disorder or a total lack of organization or order. Community, a group or of associated people sharing in common interests or common heritage or common goals. Chaos or community, where do we go from here?
The pleasure of having Bobby Seale here is a pleasure because he is no stranger to Merritt College. As many of you know, Merritt College was able to be placed on the map because of his work and Huey Newton's work. Because of their work with the Black Panther, we are proud to call this the home of the Black Panthers.
The Freedom Center fosters learning about the struggle for people power and the continuing vision of Dr. King and other leaders in the movement for civil and human rights. The center also supports economic development, providing opportunities for internships and career training. We provide guidance to create interracial, intergenerational, and international relationships. Our work focuses on confronting racism, poverty, and violence of all kinds, from war to domestic violence. We do this by studying the history of the struggle for social justice and by direct involvement in civic engagement. Dr. King said in 1968, "We have some dark days ahead." We believe he envisioned the type of conflict and struggle we are confronted today.
I remember Bobby Seale preaching on the corner. He would stand on anything he could find, a chair, a brick, anything a little taller than the crowd he was talking to. He would speak the truth to power. He put his life on the line, imprisoned. I mean, you can't begin to believe the kind of courage that he and the Black Panthers had in the 60s and 70s. When you're under invasion by the FBI and the CIA and all the other cloaks of darkness that we have in this country, you have the courage to continue to fight? What manner of strength and what manner of man do we have in front of us today? I used to go to the meetings, but I'd sneak in and sneak out before the FBI saw me. I was scared to death. But those guys, you know, and there were a whole lot of pretenders to the Panthers. People who wore berets and had leather coats, man, they didn't have nothing to do with the Panthers. But they'd walk behind them like they were in the crowd, you know, and they'd peel off when the trouble started. But Bobby Seale, we're just so blessed that you're here today, that you're alive, you're well, and you're going to share your knowledge and your history with all of us, because people need to know who you are, what you did, and what we need to do to maintain your legacy. Brother, we are in the Bobby Seale and Huey Newton Lounge at Merritt College. Is named after you. Take pride in being here tonight, because we have pride in your life and your legacy. Thank you, brother.
Our conduct is the way we choose to behave. In every situation, we have the option to conduct ourselves in a way that's other-interested or self-interested. Our conduct either lowers or rises our character. It defines who we are. When we act in a way that lowers our character, we lower our consciousness. Low character leads to being blind to the needs and interests of others. But what is the best interest of the nation? Our world, higher character leads to more enlightened consciousness, and one can see farther. our world vision expands, and we cannot see only the interests of others, but what is the best interest of the nation and humanity. Being able to have the consciousness to see and interpret our world begins with conduct. And such conduct can be very basic. For example, a smile. A smile is basic conduct that leads towards hope and support. When we smile, we permit others to feel hope and security. When we help others feel hope, we begin to see farther ahead and further around us. We coach ourselves to conduct ourselves in a way that rises character and amplifies consciousness. Thank you.
Welcome, and thank you so much for joining us tonight. My name is Jake Harrison, and here at the Freedom Center, we learn to master our fears. We learn that fear is good. It is not something to be avoided. After all, isn't it our fear of getting burned that stops us from touching that hot stove? Isn't it our fear of falling that keeps us from getting too close to that dangerous ledge? At the Freedom Center, we're taught how to make fear our friend, and we learn how to avoid abnormal fear. Rational fear simply warns us, while abnormal fear paralyzes us. It stops us from doing what we know is right. And right now, as a country, we're living in a state of perpetual fear. This is fear that needs to be confronted, not avoided. At the Freedom Center, we're taught how to utilize our fear to work for us instead of against us. For fear is a tool of warfare. And right now, currently, our nation is under a violent assault on our mental health. Those in the establishment instill fear in our everyday lives to stifle our revolution. Here at the Freedom Center, we learn to conquer our fear so we can fight another day. At the Freedom Center, we're also taught about the importance of staying relevant. And when we say relevant, we're not talking about keeping up with the latest fashion trends. We're not talking about buying the newest album that was just dropped. We're talking about keeping up with the economic, political, and cultural developments that happen around us each and every day. Staying relevant means avoiding all the constant distractions that are thrown our way and continuing to stay focused on the bigger picture. At the Freedom Center, we are taught to be cognizant of the world that we all share, because change is not inevitable. We have to force it to happen, and we create change by getting involved. Here at the Freedom Center, we remain relevant to continue the revolution. Thank you.
Welcome, everyone. My name is Angela Drake, and at the Freedom Center, we devote time to understanding interconnectedness. We are all interdependent, whether we know it or not. It could be something as obvious as depending on the person next to you or someone from across the world. That's how humanity is structured. When you cook for your family, it's not just you in the kitchen. It's a kitchen full of work, sweat, and contribution of millions of others. The oranges on the counter have been picked by a farm worker, processed and packed in a packing plant by workers who, in many countries, work hard without a living wage. Your coffee comes from Latin America, your tea from a Chinese, and the spices in your cupboard come from all around the world. Even the kitchen towel comes from an Indonesian girl who works 10 hours a day under slave conditions for a towel she cannot even afford. That same towel that you wipe your hands with every single day. And it's up to us to remember the ones who help.
No one becomes who they are meant to be on their own. No one can confront injustice effectively without doing things outside their comfort zones. I came to the Freedom Center when I was in the 7th grade. I'm a junior at Merritt College now. Like my friends and teammates, I would probably not be actively engaged in fighting racism and poverty if it wasn't for the Freedom Center that's been supporting me for the past years. Most likely, I would be pregnant. I would be working to somehow pay the rent and eat at the same time. I would be surviving, not living. I would be taking myself out, along with my younger sisters and my children. See, this is the reality. Most of us came to the Freedom Center knowing that we can't do this on our own. We need each other. We know that if we don't change ourselves, the ramifications go far beyond our lives. It follows us into our wombs, homes. It follows us into our classrooms. It follows us into our jobs. In America, our inability to change ourselves plays a role in maintaining the status quo, which increases racism, poverty, and war. Some adults have negative views of us youth, but you know what? Many of us young people also hold negative views about ourselves, and we have to change.
It was also during the early 70s that I met then Chairman Comrade Bobby Seale. It was during that period, and I want to remind us of a couple of things tonight, just in terms of the history of Bobby and the Black Panther Party. First of all, the Black Panther Party, under the leadership of Bobby Seale and Huey Newton, they initiated what now the federal government finally decided to do, and that was the free breakfast programs for children. Took the Panthers to do that. Took them to do that. The Black Panther Party highlighted the issue of police misconduct and police brutality way back then. And Bobby, I just have to say, today we had the Oscar Grant Foundation with at least 12 to 15 mothers of young men who have been killed by the police throughout the country. And it was quite a moving and powerful meeting today, but I had to, and Erica was there, and I had to think about what you all were doing and saying way back then in the day about the role of the police in our community and police misconduct. And so the Panthers, once again, led the way on all of these very, very tough issues that we're still dealing with today. They were the vanguard of the revolution. The young people at the Freedom Center, I just have to say to them how proud I am of all of you. They are amazing young people who I have gotten to know. They travel with me. I have the privilege to go with John Lewis and others to the pilgrimage to Selma, Montgomery, Birmingham every year. We're getting ready to go to Charleston in a couple of weeks. They went with me to Memphis when we reopened the Civil Rights Museum. So these young people have a chance to move around the country and to meet our heroes and sheroes and foot soldiers and leaders of the Civil Rights Movement. When we went to Memphis, Tennessee with the Freedom Center, Bobby Seale came. Bobby spoke at the opening of the Civil Rights Museum. And Bobby, I'm just so proud of the fact that you were there speaking and that the Civil Rights Museum in Memphis, Tennessee has a major exhibit about Bobby Seale and the Black Panther Party in Oakland, California, in Memphis. And so now I just want to bring forward the man of the hour, the person who I have known for many, many, many years. Where's my nephew? Lamont is here from Los Angeles. He remembers Bobby Seale and all of us out selling newspapers and survival rallies and the chairman really conducting the PE classes we all went to. I mean, Bobby Seale was a community worker, but he was also chairman of the Black Panther Party, and so he educated this community like many of you remember and believe. And now with Black Lives Matter, which Black Lives Matter? Black Lives Matter. Elihu and I and Roy and Karen and the staff of the Martin Luther King Freedom Center couldn't think of any person more relevant to this time, more appropriate to be with us tonight during Black History Month, more clear and more committed as he has ever been to make sure that Black Lives Matter and that we see the change in this country that the Black Panther Party stood for, worked for, fought for, and many, many, many sacrificed so much for. So Bobby Seale, thank you. We honor you tonight. Come on up, Mr. Chairman, Comrade Bobby Seale. Power to the people, all power to the people. Give Bobby Seale a round of applause.
You know, Nelson Mandela came out of prison, and I remember myself going to San Francisco. There was a South African sort of a consulate extension of the United Nations place in San Francisco where we protested. It's the first time I carried a placard in 1963. And they came down and arrested us, put us in a paddy wagon, drove us 10, 12 blocks away, and let us out of the paddy wagon. We went back and forth. Later, we was up around University of California getting petitions signed to end apartheid and free Nelson Mandela. That was in 1963. In 1962, I was a young man. I was working at Kaiser Aerospace and Electronics. Kaiser Industries is right here. And I landed this great job. You know, my whole career, a life of work, it's like I was a lucky young guy, you know, to be raised a carpenter and a builder, beginning at age 7 when my father built our first house in Port Arthur, Texas. He built it from the ground. My father was a master carpenter and builder. My grandfather was a master carpenter and builder, Art Seale. And we come from the Seale family, from the Seale plantation in East Texas. This is where both my mother and father were born. They were born in the county of Jasper, Texas. The same county where some 15, 20 years ago a young brother was drugged to death by Ku Klux Klanners. And my niece, my daughter, my sister's daughter, looked up our genealogy and found that that brother who was drugged to death was 6th cousin to our family. My people are from Jasper, Texas. My grandpa built the town, well, he built 500 houses in what we call Weirgate, Texas, near the Louisiana border. These old men that I grew up with, they taught me. My father taught me to be a hunter and a fisherman. I mean, it's like when I was 13 years of age, I was an expert shot with a 30-30 Winchester, hunting deer, hunting bear, what have you, et cetera. Of course, we hunted all over California, small game, big game, what have you, et cetera. But me, I was lucky. I was lucky because by the time I was a grown man, I had so many trades, skills, and professions, it was a crying shame. And as I say, I was working in the engineering department at Kaiser Aerospace Electronics. You know, and when Ronald Reagan called me a hoodlum, when I led that armed delegation to the California State Legislature, when I led that armed delegation, my organization was only about 6 months old, 6 or 7 months old. I mean, we were a ragtag organization. I'm talking about, what did I have? 15, 16 real members? I was, later on, and by that time, I'm working for the city government of Oakland, California, Department of Human Resources. I'm the community liaison for the North Oakland Neighborhood Service Center. And what's happening here in that poverty program, that warm poverty program, is 1965 coming around, that book jumped out, Black Power. And I read portions of the book, and then I saw some other brothers standing on the corner. We want black power, we want black power. Well, yeah, right on. I says, but you know, we don't have enough politicians, black politicians, to get any black power. What you talking about, man? I said, man, you can sit up here, and it's good that you up here, but I says, but we have to have some power, and then therefore we have to have some political power seats. And in that time, working there, et cetera, running the youth jobs program, et cetera, I did my other little research. And I looked across America and tried to find out how many black politicians was duly elected at that time in the middle of the 1960s. How many was elected to office at this time? And I'd gotten up to 50, including Admiral Clayton Powell. I only found 50. Now, me, I love mathematics and the demographics and all that stuff, you know what I mean? I says, now, wait a minute. How many political seats are there? Yeah, it's 52 counties here in California, boom, 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 et cetera, boom, 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 and all this stuff. I says, wow, and I got to looking around, and I came up with 500,000 political seats that one can be elected to in the United States of America when you encompass all of them from the lowest local level to the federal level. And most I'd count as 50. Oh, you probably could have found some more, 10 or 15 or 20. But I'm telling the brothers and sisters, y'all, we have to have some political power seats. And this is the real reason that I started the Black Panther Party. This is where it came from. You know, I'm still working for the city government even when we got to the party, you know. At any rate, when I did that rally at Merritt College, we packed the room. I recited this poem called Uncle Sammy Called Me Full of Lucifer. I picked that poem up out of the Liberator magazine out of San Francisco. out of New York. A young brother wrote that, and I thought it was appropriate to voice a prose piece like that, you know, because we were being drafted to fight in Vietnam, and we read, Virgil and I read in the newspapers that 29% of all the people dying on the front line in Vietnam was black Americans. And we're talking the 1960s, and I'm saying, why should we let ourselves be drafted anymore? Because this country is not recognizing our constitutional, democratic, civil, human rights. And that's one of the things that protest evolved. With that, Virgil Morell and I created Soul Students Advisory Council at Merritt College here. And that was the beginning. And Huey came down, because I left a message for him, you know, that we have a rally. You know, I talked to Huey at one point before that, right after Malcolm X was killed. And I said, we need to put another organization together. And what Huey says, well, they don't know their history well enough, and I'm in law school now, et cetera, and so on, that kind of stuff. And I says, well, okay, I says, I'm gonna organize something. But after that rally, Huey came at the tail end, and it blew his mind. He looked in the room at the tail end of the rally. We'd been there 3 hours. And all these people was raving about this poem, and Huey had opened the side door, And when I walked out to the side door, me, Bertram, Richard Ioka, and some others, and Huey says, "You organize all these people?" I said, "Yeah." I said, "I told you, man." I says, "It ain't nothing we can organize." But what are you doing now? I says, "We going to my house." "What you gonna do at your house?" I said, "I got some barbecue." I cooked a whole lot of ribs and chicken and potato salad and stuff, in the backyard there. And this was for all the people at that rally who had signed up to be members of Seale Students Advisory Council. About 250 of them, about 150 showed up. And Huey was happy to go because, Huey loved to eat. "Yeah, okay, I understand." And he just agrees, My point, those were those early days, But then I also had this job down at the North Oakland Neighborhood Service Center. At another point, I recited that poem up on Telegraph Avenue, and it caused us to get into a fight with the Berkeley police. It had a cuss word in it and all of that, and he walks up, this undercover guy, he didn't even show his badge, walked up saying, "You're using obscene language." And I told him to get his hands off me. He had civilian clothes on. I didn't know he was a cop. He's talking about I'm under arrest for using obscene language, and I'm cussing him out and telling him that the free speech movement just wanted the right to say the four-letter word all they want to. What you talking about, in the courts, and boom. But we got arrested, wound up in front of Judge Statz over here in the Alameda County Courthouse. And I told the judge, I says, "Your Honor, now my friend Huey here says you can give us 1 to 10 years. John George was with us, but we had to make a statement before sentencing because there was a no contest plea. And I told him, I says, "I work for the city government of Oakland. I have youth in the summer for a job program, 100 youth, et cetera. And I work to keep my kids out of jail, but it ain't right. The police lied. He said I was using obscene language, and in the preliminary hearing, he jumped up and said he told me I was blocking the sidewalk." I said he was a lie, Your Honor, and it's not right for me and Huey to be going to jail. Huey, being in law school, it says we could get 1 to 10 years, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Anyway, the judge gave us probation. And we got downstairs. I said, "Huey, meet me at the Warren Poverty Center tonight." "What?" I said, "I'm telling you, meet me tonight." I says, "Because we're going to finish this." I said, "We could have been in jail, man, for 10 years, man. What's wrong with you?" So we bet down there. Everybody was off work. I had the key and everything to get in and out of the place, et cetera, and so on. And we finished writing our rough draft of our 10-point program. And we wanted power to determine our own destiny in our own black community. And my whole point was to Huey that we're going to organize a political electoral machine. What? Yeah, we're going to patrol the police, but you have to understand, patrolling the police was a tactic with guns, law books, and tape recorders. It was a tactic. The idea, as Huey would say, we'll capture the imagination of the people. I said, well, good, if we capture the imagination of the people, then I can help from there begin to organize a political electoral machine. That was the, in effect, we knew every law on the guns. Every fish and game code law, however the gun was related, from the Second Amendment rights and all the other rulings, et cetera, we had that down. We knew all of this. And the method was, even Huey had researched it with his law professor. He was in Knight's private law school in San Francisco. Is that you can't go and say something first to the police. You have to let the police first say something to you. Because if you say something first, you get busted for interfering with the police officer carrying out their duty, et cetera. So we knew all this stuff. And we get out of the car on 7th Street one night, but the second week of January, on 7th Street, and we walked down, because we saw him. I had a walkie-talkie. Huey had his father's car. I had my old Chevrolet. I had 7 people in my car, and Huey had 7 in his car. We was all bunched up in the cars, We parked legally. We got out of the car and we walked down. Liquor store there, Slim Jenkins is somewhere along the street there on 7th Street, down there and whatever. As we come down, some sister nicely dressed saw us with our little uniforms on, you know, our little berets and our blue shirts and blue whatever, et cetera. Our colors were black and blue, with our little guns. It's nighttime, 9 o'clock. Police cars kind of sitting in the street. A little arrestee is standing there with his hand at the back of the trunk. The police is actually on the right side, the passenger side, with the door open, sitting inside, saying something on the radio as we walk up. I get everybody to stand in order, and they do. I said, look, step off the curb. They got off the curb. Some guy came out of the place, about 30, 40 people on the sidewalk there. And the old man say, what they got in their hand? Sticks or something? And another brother that knew who he was called him by name and said, man, them guns, be quiet. And so the cop sort of looked up, and then Huey turns around, and the old man said, I'm leaving. And Huey says, no one leave, please stay here. You have a right to stand and observe, police officer. We researched the law, so no one leave, everybody stand. By this time, this cops got out in his car, and Huey turns around, and the cop says, you have no right to observe me. And Huey says, no, California State Supreme Court ruling states that every citizen has a right. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. You got to hear this out. I'm telling you, we're reciting the law. Huey says, no, California State Supreme Court ruling states that every citizen has a right to stand and observe a police officer carrying out their duty as long as they stand a reasonable distance away or reasonable distance. That particular ruling is constituted 8 to 10 feet. I'm standing approximately 20 feet from you, and we'll observe you whether you like it or not. And the sister on the sidewalk, she says, well, go ahead on and tell it. Now, I mean, when I look back on that, and what was happening here is we're capturing the imagination of the people. We're disciplined. Nobody's one person. Because the point, and the other point we told everybody, only one person talked. Because if and when we were arrested, we want to be able to go to court, and I want, if it's 12, 13, or 14 of us, to be able to testify to the same thing. We had that thing laid out there. Anyway, that cop says, is that gun loaded? He would say, if I know it's loaded, it's good enough. Well, I have a right. He says, no, you have no right. He would cited something, United States Supreme Court, blah, 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 blah. Therefore, you cannot remove my property from me without due process of law. Step back. You cannot touch my weapon. And a tall black brother over there, he say, man, what kind of Negro is these? That's the way it happened. Right there in West Oakland on 7th Street. You know, and boom, the cop says, well, he says, you can't touch my weapon, step back. You know what I mean? And boom, he said, loaded. And then Huey says, clap, clap. He jacked around in the chamber. Now, it was not around in the chamber that shotgun I'd bought Huey. Why? Because it was a law. While riding in the car, you cannot have a live round in a long gun, such as a shotgun or a rifle, while riding in the car. You could put it in the chamber where it could be shot once you got out of the car. He says, clap, clap. He jacks around in the chamber. And when he jacks around in the chamber, all the other guys with long guns, clap, 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 clap. Well, that shook up everybody. That caused the cop. See, the police officer really had to look down to see. I had 14 other people down here with all these guns, you know, and he looks, he gets his arrestee, he puts him in the car, he's walking away, and he stops. The sister had these gold earrings on, and the light, whatever, was flicking, and he stopped to guess, obviously to try to make sure one of them is a woman, with a big .44 pistol that Richard Aoki had given her to wear. My point is, he left, the police left. Some kids come running out the corner, telling some other kids, see, I told you, look at that, these are the new police to us. And you know, from 66 to when we never had no more than 50 people in the Black Panther Party the first year. See, people may have thought we didn't have no big numbers, but May 2nd, halfway through that year, is when I led the armed delegation. that event, and it was just an event because Moffett was up there for me to read Executive Mandate number 1. And that's what I did. And then I wanted to go into the Capitol inside. I wanted to go to the spectator section because citizens have a right to somewhere sit in here. And man, I didn't know where it was. And a horde of 40, 50 press people are saying, this way, Bobby, this way, Bobby. We got guns, cameras, everything. 5 people get ahead of me. Mark Comfort and others got ahead of me with their rifles. And they walked in on the assembly floor. I didn't know where they was. They got ahead of me. And I walked up, I'm looking for the spectator section. We're on the floor, and the president pro temp is banging. The press, pound, pound, is not allowed. The cameras came rushing into the assembly. Cameras were not allowed on the floor while the assembly was in session. It was not allowed, and I said, oh my God, we're in the wrong place. I mean, this is where I come from, you know what I mean? I come down and I'm walking down the aisle because they had walked all the way up front. The president pro tem didn't even realize that the guy, that I had 5 people ahead of me with rifles on their shoulder, resting on their shoulder, and boom. And I said, come on, you guys, let's get out of here, man, we're in the wrong place. And so a couple of white guys had ducked under the table. I said, hey man, I'm sorry, they led me to the wrong place. Come on. This is really how it happened. Now, we had left the Capitol, and they came and arrested us. We were long gone. We were sitting in the service station, et cetera. And they came and surrounded us and arrested us, what have you, et cetera. And they didn't arrest any of the women. We had 6 females with it, including my first wife, Artie. And she was with me. And we had 6 carloads, what have you. And later that night, Eldridge Cleaver's girlfriend, she was his lawyer, came and bailed me out. And I got back down. Anyway, a day or so later, I got my brother-in-law, Ted Williams, to bail out my people, et cetera. And then when we got before the court, they only charged 6 people. But they had our guns, so we went down to the police area to get our guns. We're not giving you any guns back. You can't have any guns back. We went back and went to the court, got Beverly Axelrod, the lawyer, to tell the judge that they only charged us with disturbing the peace. There's no gun charges at all, and we want our guns back. And the judge ruled, and we've been back there and got our guns. And the cops hated giving us those guns back. Got our guns. And our guns were loaded. They were loaded. And we would not go out there with unloaded guns just in case something really happened. I'm just saying. And we took the chance with that, you know what I mean? Now, that was all about police brutality, and it was focused. But my organization and us starting with the guns had more to do with the fact that peaceful protesters right here in Berkeley and Oakland was being viciously brutalized. And peaceful protesters, you see, that's what was wrong, you know what I mean? That whole year, we had no more than 50 people in the party. I had to serve 6 months, which I got out of jail in 5 months because of good behavior. But my point is, that was in December, and Huey was in jail, shot, et cetera, what have you, by Officer Fry, and so on. Now, I can't tell you the whole history of that. You can read about that, Sky's the Limit, et cetera, and so on. I got other books outside, but my point is, the real growth of my organization really started in 1968. I come out of jail December the 8th. Eldridge Cleaver was riding high. I ain't got no job no more, so Norvell Smith had to let me go, you know what I mean? But he came back, he says, Bobby, what are you doing going to the Capitol like this here? I said, man, I'm just trying to change this stuff around here. He said, they're making me fire you. I said, that's all right, Norvell, man, fine, don't worry about that, you know what I mean? But my point is, it was really there in that period. And we did the pre-Huey birthday rally, and right after that, Dr. Reverend Ralph Abernathy called me. Mr. Seale, he says, Dr. King would like to know, would the Black Panther Party be willing to help participate in organizing for his upcoming Poor People's March? And I says, yes, yes. I says, he says, we are organizing more than 100 different organizations from all across the country in various cities all across the country. I says, okay. I says, we will participate. We will definitely participate. And he says, well, what we're going to do, he says, once we get this 100 or so organizations together, Dr. King wants to set up a broad roundtable where we can deal with, spelling out and broaden the civil rights in terms of economic rights. This is what we're going to do. And I said, well, we will participate, we'll be a part. So in effect, people don't know it, I had a coalition with SCLC and Martin Luther King. And then Eldridge Cleaver next week put in the Black Panther Party newspaper, my Dr. Martin Luther King, calling him a bootlicker. Oh my God. Me and Eldridge Cleaver went around, he was the Minister of Information. I said, you are not gonna do that. Oh, Chairman, he's talking about now. I said, you darn right, nonviolence. Nonviolence is a constitutional, democratic, civil, human right. I says, and for anybody to beat up peaceful protesters is violating the law of the land. So we defend our constitutional, democratic, civil, human rights. That's where we're coming from. I says, now I told Dr. King, we will participate, and those Black Panthers who don't want to come there, I says, well, there will be no guns coming when we come to your Poor People's March. But anyway, we packed the Oakland Auditorium for the Poor People's March. I packed that auditorium and then, Reverend Ralph Abernathy and others, they organized, and that's what we did in the few chapters I had. I mean, really, my chapters were just up and down the West Coast. And that first year before Dr. King was killed, I only had 400 members up and down the West Coast, from San Diego to Seattle, Washington. That's all I had. And that coalition, 5 weeks later, they murdered Dr. King. And the next thing I know, some judge was going to violate my probation, and then a riot happened in Richmond, California, and I ran out to Richmond, California, where I had put up a youth jobs program, the first youth jobs program. In fact, the city government of Richmond, California, back here 10 years ago, gave me a proclamation for creating the first youth jobs program. And it was right at the time in 1964 when the Civil Rights Bill was passed. I quit my engineering job after 3.5 years just to work in the grassroots community. And that's what I created out there, that youth jobs program behind the Civil Rights Bill. But when they Dr. King, what happened, it caused riots was all over the country. I didn't believe in riots at all. I believed in organizing people. That's what I believed in. Because even prior to the Black Panther Party and the Watts riots, which was in 1965, we didn't start the Black Panther Party until October 1966. All right? So then, I remember that Watts riot. We up here in Oakland, and that was in Los Angeles and all that stuff. 65 killed, 200 some odd wounded, and 5,000 arrested. And this is before the party started, and I'm working in my head, how can I organize 5,000 people rather than 5,000 people just get in the grassroots community so we can get some more political power seats? You see, and these guys with political power seats, I said, yeah, man. They got counties all over the South, man, where the majority of black folks are in those counties. In each county, a sheriff is elected. I says, now, if we got the right to vote, we get the people registered to vote. I says, what? We can elect some really heavy, progressive black sheriff, and if the Ku Klux Klan get to acting up, that sheriff can deputize 100 brothers and sisters and people and go over there and kick that Ku Klux Klan's butt and stop them from doing that. I said, that's political power, man. We want some power seats. Oh, okay, man. I said, understand. So the city council seats, that they make the laws, man. They make the rules, et cetera, the city charter. I said, don't you understand this is what this is about? And that was my political organizing strategy. As the party, and Dr. King was killed, people were joining my organizations hand over fist. I'm going to every chapter and every branch. We need to get you out here. I said, go to the college, get to college, invite me to speak out there. They will pay me to speak. They'll pay all our expenses, et cetera. And boom, and once I speak to the college, that starts your community base that we communicate with the college, and wherever you're located in your city, et cetera, then the next day or the next evening, I'll give you guys a prayer. So I went to these chapters and branches to teach them the fine particulars and the methodology of effective grassroots community organizing. That's what it was about to me. That's the way I saw it. In other words, if I'm an architect, et cetera. I can draw the beautiful plans, et cetera, do all the specs and specifications, et cetera, take them down to license inspection, et cetera, boom, boom, they can pass them. It's still just a theory. But when you build it, it's real. You see what I mean? So that's the concept. So my idea is I'm going to build an electoral machine in this country in chapters and branches everywhere. In other words, we was rolling through 1968. A lot of things happened, et cetera. By the time Nixon was elected, my organization had moved from 400 members up and down the West Coast to 5,000 members in 49 chapters and branches throughout the United States of America. That's how fast we'd rapidly moved. And it was in reaction to the murder of our beloved Dr. Martin Luther King. This is what the real program was and what really happened. And then they put too much doctrinaire socialism in our party newspaper, and I got tired of that. You know, simultaneously, what happened? I think Nixon was elected. After Nixon was elected, he had a meeting before he was sworn in with J. Edgar Hoover. The first week or so in December, Nixon's still not sworn in. Nixon is on the mass media, and this is the first time he heard that the Black Panther Party is a threat to the internal security of America. And when he said that, and I went to look at the reviews, and I says, whoa. And I didn't swole to 5,000 members. And so when I says, wow, I called for a retreat. I said, well, every little chapter in every branch, I want 2, 3, or 4 people out of the branch. They got a week to get here to Oakland, California. I want them here now. And that's what I gave a directive. And they made it there. They made it here to Oakland. Places we could meet with St. Augustine's Church, another church they call the Black Church, where they let us use some Lutheran group, et cetera, and so on. Well, but anyway, that's when I took my little architectural skills and I started sketching, architecturally sketching, how to structure framings and fortify all of our offices, because they are going to attack us. And I kept telling Barbara, you don't take this lightly. When this man said we are a threat to the internal security of America, I believe J. Edgar Hoover and these people getting ready to attack us. And that's what was happening. Right after Nixon was sworn in, old Watergate tapes that had been made public, and he sent that thing to me, and there it was. Nixon, Richard M. Nixon. Now, J. Edgar, you're going to do these Black Panthers for me, J. Edgar. Well, yes, sir. I says, when you going to move on these Black Panthers? He says, well, we've been trying to move on. He says, well, you do it. Now John Mitchell's going to be calling you. I mean, we ain't been charged with nothing yet. And these guys are talking about getting rid of us. You see what I'm getting at? This is what was happening. So it was the President of the United States. Yeah, that film, talked about that, and J. Edgar Hoover did this. But I want to say this is what Nixon did. That president, that's where the fascism rolled from. And in that year of 1969, they must have attacked over 20 different Black Panther Party offices, raided them. In one couple of places, just ran in. Brothers was just opening the office up, didn't even know they were coming, boom, boom, boom. Shot it up. Brother Bell down in Los Angeles, just killed him dead, etc. Went all over the place. I mean, that was, by the end of that year, I had 28 party members dead, 69 wounded. And in defending ourselves in a lot of these situations, there were 12 police officers dead. and 39 police officers because we defended ourselves. They came to us, and they tried to call us terrorists. They was the one that terrorizing us. You know what I mean? We weren't no terrorists. So what Dr. King did in his move to get all these organizations involved, and also he told us we wanted a round table where we work together and meet on some basis where we help to work out and outline a broad plan for greater economic rights. And I said, yes, sir. I understood it. I understood the whole relevancy of where he was coming from. In effect, the Black Panther Party wound up being coalesced with 30-some-odd different organizations. I didn't just have what you call statement coalitions. I had to have face-to-face relationships. All my Chicano brothers in the organization, the Latino brothers, all the young lords and other people, etc., all the little young Asians, the Red Guard, the Iwakun in New York, what have you, etc. This is the kind of coalitions we had. Then I called for a United Front Against Fascism conference right here in Oakland, California in the summer of 1969. And they were still attacking our offices all across the country. Finally, they arrested me August the 8th that year. I already forced Eldridge into exile. Huey was already in jail, convicted and sentenced. But Huey was found not guilty of first-degree murder, not guilty of second-degree murder, and found guilty only of third-degree voluntary manslaughter. To understand that, that's half of a win, because they were talking about putting him in the electric chair. Did they have an electric chair or gas chamber out here? I forget. Anyway, they were going to put me in the electric chair. They were going to put me in the electric chair in New Haven, Connecticut. But before New Haven, Connecticut, I had to go through Chicago. And that story, that's a mean story. Nobody can get it right, but I got it right. I got it right because I experienced it. You know what I mean? It was 3 levels of gagging. The 3rd level of gagging, the artist never had a chance to draw it, because that was one of them situations where they brought me in the chair. Counselor is up out of his chair, again telling the judge this is medieval torture. The jury members over there, a couple of them were crying, I think it was what. But me, I'm over here battling to try to turn my arm up under this big hospital strap. This is the 3rd day. See, in the first day, they put me in a little metal folding chair, you know what I mean? And Mr. Seale, will you be quiet? No. And I had I had metal handcuffs on a metal folding chair. Clang, 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 clang. You're not going to have no court today with Bobby Seale sitting here. He ain't gagged today. Clang, clang, clang. And I'm saying, I don't want no constitutional right. You get no constitutional right. That's what I was doing. Mine was about that. My ideology was about power to the people. And to me, power to the people begets, if we can put it together, greater cooperational humanism. And this whole need for us to tackle this climate change. Sorry. Anyway, look here, look. It is about our Constitution, democratic, civil, human rights. At the tail end of my 10-point platform and program, I put paraphrasing of the first 2 paragraphs of the Declaration of Independence, United States of America. And I try to get young folks to really read that. Because when I put it there, I had read it, digested, and understood it for what it was. It said, when in the course of human events it becomes necessary for any one people to dissolve the political bondage which have connected us with another, and to assume among the powers of the earth the separate and equal station to which the laws of nature and nature's God entitled us, a decent respect to the opinions of humankind, dictate that they should declare the causes which impel them to get rid of that political bondage that they're subjected to. And the latter part of it, listen to me, it says, when a long train of abuses and usurpations pursues and invariably evinces a design to reduce a people under absolute despotism, then it is the right of the people to alter a change and provide new guards for their security and happiness. So my argument and my organizing My very organizer was trying to get some political power seats. And Congresswoman Barbara Lee, oh my God, I've been knowing this sister that time. She told me I put them all out in the field registering people to vote, so I'd forgotten about it. I put 20 people in the field one day. But that was what it's about. I want them political power seats. By the end of the 1970s, with a lot of people participating on that same line, we had 7,000 duly elected black politicians in the United States of America. By the end of the 80s, we had 10, 11, 12,000. In the 90s, I think we're near somewhere 20. But it's more than that. When we said all power to the people, we're talking about those same political power seats. Those political power seats are legislative frameworks. They make laws, they allocate monies, funds, et cetera, blah, 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 blah. You know what I mean? And you see what the right wing is doing. We know what they're doing, especially with their repression of the vote. I mean, we pull together and get these people out here and get these young folks and everybody together out here, boom, 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 boom. We got to take back, I mean, yeah, we got, 90 representatives that will tend to vote on a progressive level. We need 3 times that many in the House of Representatives. And we get see, that's the kind of stuff, and that's still the same issue. Those political power seats in a progressive way, with progressive thinking, with good politics, et cetera, boom, boom. That's what it's about. It's about a future world of cooperational humanism. It's a continuing human liberation struggle. Power to the people. Thank you very much.
It's gone so long. I've been in the storm so long, but I tried to make heaven my